Hi friends, welcome back to Farm Girl Diaries. My name is Caitlin, and I wanted to have a quick impromptu but honest conversation. I just went to the grocery store yesterday. I decided I wanted to have like a little cookout yesterday, and I went to the grocery store and I bought a pound of hamburger because I wanted to have smash burgers, and all of my hamburger was frozen, and I didn't feel like messing with that. So I got a couple things for this cookout that I wanted to have, and it ended up being like $50. And I honestly didn't get too much hamburger. It was actually a pound and a quarter. It was $8. Now with my bonus card, I got $6. It came down to $6, but it was still $8 for a pound and a quarter of hamburger. And 2-3 years ago, that same meat would have been $2, $3. Um, Everything, the price, and no one needs to be told this, the price of everything is going exponentially up, and there's no end in sight. Especially as you move into an election year. Normally, election years is not when things get cheaper. um, so I really want to kind of have an honest conversation about how to start prioritizing your family's needs and what you do on your own homestead. So I think this is going to be a two-part video, because I want to talk about the garden side of things, but then I want to talk about the medical side of things. So with that side of things, the medical side of things, for hundreds of years, it's actually kind of a pet peeve of mine. All of my friends around me look at me and like I'm crazy when I say like I'm harvesting my own medicine, and I'm taking these plants I'm growing and making my own salves and tinctures and balms and elixirs and all this stuff, and they look at me like I'm crazy. But for hundreds of years, before Big Pharma was a thing, this is what you did. This is the medicine that you got. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say this till the cows come home, that when it comes to the big illnesses, cancer, diabetes, all of that stuff, you need Big Pharma. But it comes to the simple things like a cold or a flu, headaches, cuts, bruises, scabs, wounds, all of that stuff, I firmly believe that we could take back control of, and we could grow things on our own homestead that could be used for those purposes, and kind of not have to rely on the corporations to supply that kind of stuff, like ibuprofen, Neosporin, all that stuff. I have ibuprofen on hand and Tylenol on hand for emergencies, in case I have that headache that my stuff I just can't kick, not very often. I also don't get migraines, so I'm not making anything that's really strong enough for migraines. If I get a migraine, it's incredibly rare, but if I get a migraine, I'm going for the big stuff. I'm not wasting any time. I'm going for the Excedrin. I also always recommend having Advil on hand, because everyone knows that you take Advil if you suspect that you're having a heart attack, so always have that on hand. But there's so much that we can grow on our own homesteads, regardless of the size, that we could use for our own health. So I want to talk about that, but I want to talk about the purpose of homestead. Why do people homestead? And how I think we need to move forward as a society and kind of taking back control. I went to the grocery store and everything was astronomical. Astronomical. Everything's just getting more and more expensive. And now, and I've been saying this for years, you look right now, you look at what is happening today, and you predict what the prices are going to be in 6 months to a year. So last year, and the beef prices make so much sense. I spouted this to all of my friends and family last fall, that there was such a massive drought down south. The prices of feed for cattle were so high that so many farmers were selling their cattle and sending them to auction before they grew them out, because they couldn't afford to grow them out. So I predicted last fall that we were going to have astronomical beef prices, and it seems that is going that direction. I always wish, I never want to be wrong, because it's kind of like a pride thing, but at the same time I would rather be wrong and take the hits to my pride. But unfortunately, I think this is the way that this is going. So that kind of happened last year. We also saw the big chicken feed prices go sky high. Egg prices are starting to come down a little bit, but they did go incredible. $5 a dozen, at least where I am, that's unheard of, but that was a reality. So that's insane. Right now, what we're going to be dealing with is we have El Nino. This is El Nino year. And across the board, I think the weather patterns are going to be changing, and that could really influence where your produce is coming from and how much produce that you're getting. I know right here where I am in May, they predicted we were predicting that this year for us is going to be hotter than normal and drier than normal. And I will 100% say, so far, that appears to be the case. It is the end of May. It has been actually an unseasonably warm winter and an unseasonably warm spring and summer, early summer. We had a good spring, but our spring was probably in March. Our spring was a little bit earlier, and now we're kind of full-fledged into those summer temperatures, high 80s or low 80s, mid 80s right now. But what we're dealing with is we are dealing with a very, very dry summer. It hasn't rained for probably about 2 weeks. And the last time it rained, it kind of just drizzled. It wasn't a good soak-in rain, so it is really dry here. And I'm having to water my garden every single day, which I don't like doing. You want to encourage your roots to grow down, but because my dry period is hitting so early, my plants haven't really even established roots yet. So I'm having to spend that extra time every single day watering the garden to make sure that everything grows and doesn't die. However, if you're on a big 100-acre farm, you cannot water the fields. So I'm kind of expecting that there could be a chance that we could have lower produce yields or more expensive produce this year because what Mother Nature so far isn't being super cooperative. I've seen that our fields are all around are kind of starting to struggle because they're just not getting any rain. And again, you can't, if you're a commercial farmer growing a monocrop, you cannot water that field. You need Mother Nature to do it for you, and Mother Nature is not cooperating. Right now, I've been checking the weather every single day, just like, can we get a rainy day? Like, I'll take a rainy day, a nice, good soaking rain. And we don't have any rain, at least for the next week. I think early next week, it's Sunday right now, so I think early next week we might have some rain. But again, that could change. But that is the first glimpse of possible rain. It's like early next Tuesday. So a week out, you can't really judge anything based on that. But so you need to take stock of what's going on now, and you can predict what's going to happen in the next several months, especially when it comes to your prices. So I think for many different reasons, now is the time that you need to kind of sit back and look at your homestead and think about what can you realistically do. Is there anything that you can realistically do? Can you put a couple of plants in a pot and you harvest those vegetables yourself? Can you go to a farmer's market and can you start buying things in bulk and maybe freezing it? If nothing else, can you freeze it? If you're feeling really proactive, this is the perfect time to learn how to start canning. I don't know anything. I'm not a financial guru at all. You can ask my credit cards. I don't know finances. I don't know money. But just the way things are going, I think now is the perfect time to learn some of these skills, to start learning some of these skills. No one can predict the future. No one can see what the future holds. And this is not at all to be a scared video. I'm not making this from a scared point of view, but I am making it in. Now I think it's the time to learn these skills. It is important to know the skills before you need the skills. You know, if you don't know how to butcher a deer, and all of a sudden you've shot a deer, and you don't know how to butcher it, what are you going to do with that deer? You could botch it as you try to cut up some of that meat and just kind of waste a lot of meat in the process. But it's important before you get the deer to learn what to do with the deer at the end. So now is the time, before you need these skills, now is the time I think that we need to focus on putting our attention and putting our energy into learning how to do these skills. So if you're not gardening, look into start just a small garden. Maybe you get a green stalk and you just grow in a green stalk. Maybe you just get a couple of pots and you just grow in a couple of pots. Maybe you do till up a little area of land and you put a couple of things in the ground. If you don't want to do that, maybe you learn how to start preserving or start canning. And if you're not even doing that, maybe you just start buying extra stuff. Now is the time that I wouldn't tell you to not stock your pantries. If you don't want to learn how to can, you're not interested in preserving, you don't want to garden, when you go to the store, start buying extra of just one or two things at a time. Again, I don't think you're ever going to be in a point that you're going to be upset that you had extra. So when you buy one tomato sauce, instead of buying one, buy two and put one in the pantry. And then the next time you go, buy two more. And if you buy one or two things extra every single time you go grocery shopping or you walk into a grocery store, your supply will grow exponentially. So I made a rule for myself that I actually kind of slacked on. I need to get better on. But if I walk into a grocery store, I have to buy something for like my prepped items. So like I have to buy like an extra box of tissues or an extra thing of toilet paper or an extra thing of dish soap. You just buy one extra thing. especially when you're only buying one extra thing each time you go, it's not adding up to this massive bill. You're just slowly building your pantry. And as somebody who walks in the grocery store, I work right by a grocery store, so I don't go in it near as often as I used to. I used to go in it probably 4 times a week, but I probably go in a grocery store about twice a week now. They do. My reasoning is my grocery store has an app that when things are about like to hit their Best Buy date, they mark them down 50%. So I buy a lot of my meat and stuff that way. So I sometimes go twice, 2 or 3 times a week when I'm picking stuff up off of this app. But that's the rule that I need to get better on too. Is I go to pick stuff up from this app, I need to go buy one thing to put kind of in my prepped items, and then again, if you need something, you have it. So I think now is the time, just because of inflation, because of the prices. We're going into election year. I think there's no better time to learn how to do these skills and learn how to kind of make sure your house is always prepared. When COVID hit, there's really no warning for COVID, and I'm not trying to say that that's going to happen, but when COVID hit, there's really no warning. Everyone rushed to the grocery stores, and the grocery stores were kind of sold out. Just recently, probably about a month ago, there was an incident in Philadelphia where a latex plant released chemicals into the water, and they told everyone that you couldn't drink the water for, I think it was 24 to 48 hours. And so everyone descended on the grocery stores and bought out all their bottled water, and you couldn't find any bottled water anywhere near Philly. And again, that happened on a Sunday afternoon, and within an hour, there was no bottled water to be had. So I think it's always a wise idea. You never know what's going to happen, whether you're going to have a massive storm system coming through. You never know what you're going to have happen, but I think it's never a bad time to start thinking about your family and your needs, what you need to survive. So for that purpose, let's talk about starting a garden. Think about the things that you need. So when you think about a garden, think about what your end goal is. So is your goal for the garden so that you have the fresh eating? So think about the lettuces, the carrots, the beets, the peppers, the tomatoes. Obviously, we're now getting out of the spring vegetables, so now you want to talk about the tomatoes and the peppers and the potatoes. You can still get some of them in the ground. Corn, you can still get in the ground. That's what you kind of want to focus on now. But do you want to talk about storage vegetables so that you have vegetables through the winter? That would be things like potatoes, cabbages, root vegetables, rutabagas, beets, turnips, all great things that store really well that could keep you in fresh eating through winter. Think about how you want to preserve some of these things, whether you're going to grow them or you want to buy them at the farmer's market or even from the grocery store. Don't be too ashamed to buy them from the grocery store. I think at this point in time, the chemicals, the whole, what you're buying at the grocery store, no matter what is on it, what is in it, how it's been grown, organic or not organic, I think having it outweighs the cons that come with store-bought veggies. I think at this point in time, I'd rather you have it and not worry about how that plant was grown. But think about how you can preserve it. A lot of things you can freeze, and they're so easy to freeze. Green beans, broccoli, onions, I freeze whole. Snap peas, I freeze. There's regular peas, carrots, all of these things that you can freeze, whether you buy them as pre-mixed frozen veggies or you're doing it yourself. Some things need blanched, so don't just kind of stick some things in the freezer. Green beans are better blanched. Pretty sure I blanched my broccoli. I need to double check. I'm pretty sure I blanched my broccoli too. But it's always better to have these things in the freezer and never need them, but know that you have them in case you need them. So I have a little less than a quarter acre. I grow so much of my own food. So like I said, this video is only going to talk about the food. The second video will talk more about the medicine side of things. But on this homestead, I grow a solid probably 80 to 85% of my vegetables. The things that I'm still outsourcing are my potatoes. I don't grow enough potatoes yet. My onions, I also don't grow enough onions. I'm hoping that this year I can get like at least 6 months worth of onions. I think I planted about 250 onions, so I'm hoping I can get about 6 months worth of onions. So I buy potatoes, I buy onions, I do buy lettuce in the wintertime because you can't grow lettuce in the wintertime or in the summertime. So I do buy my lettuce when I want salad. Right now I have salad coming in like gangbusters, so I'm trying to eat it enough to kind of get tired of it, and I don't want it again until the fall when I can grow it again. And I think that's honestly pretty much it. I buy bananas, I buy blueberries for the bunny, and I buy bananas for the bunny. But I can't grow bananas, and I do grow blueberries, but the bunny needs blueberries full time. I don't grow enough yet for her. That's a goal, but not yet. But that's basically all the vegetables, all the produce that I buy from the store. Everything else I kind of grow in this little, like I said, quarter-acre homestead. I have a massive patch of raspberries. I have my strawberry green stalk, which I'm going to at least have 2 of next year, if not 3. I have a whole big herb garden. I have lots of herbs come in, both perennial and annuals. Let's see, is there anything else? I think that's basically it for the food front. I have citrus trees. Yeah, that's basically it. So I have all of this food that I'm able to grow on a very small portion of my property. So you don't need to have a lot of space in order to garden. Figure out kind of, where you want to start. And I say start. Now is the perfect time to start. Now is the perfect time to learn these skills, to gather up the materials. Maybe you don't want to start this year, but you want to start in the future. Maybe next year is when you want to start looking into gardening. Right now is when the seed packets are all on sale. So seed packets, they sell for the year. So the seed packets that are gathered in that seed packet currently have to be sold for 2023. They cannot be sold for next year, for 2024. So seeds don't go bad. So even though it has a best by date, that's just the date that it needs to be sold according to law. But those seeds don't go bad. So now is the perfect time to look into buying seed packets for next year. And if nothing else, buying those seed packets today saves you money. And it ensures that you have seeds for next year. It gives you that kind of security net. It gives you that security net in case you need to plant plants. You have the seeds to plant the plants. Inflation could double. We could have even less money than we do now. There could be more or less availability in the stores. I have no idea, but kind of having those seed packets on hand gives you kind of an insurance policy to know that if you needed to, you can stick some of these seeds in the ground. And the brilliant thing is, seeds want to grow. So, growing my garden, do I need to know a lot of stuff? I know so much stuff about my garden. But do I know everything? No. But do you need to know all these things to garden? Absolutely not. I was successful every single year of gardening. Did I max out my success? Was I 100% successful? No. And I don't think there's ever going to be a year where anybody's going to be 100% successful. But did I put seeds in the ground and plants in the ground and harvest from them? Absolutely. So having even just seed packets on hand is an insurance policy that next year, if you need to, you can throw those seeds in the ground, put water on them, and that's all you got to do, and they will grow. The thing that we talk about so much on the gardening side is fertilizers and nutrients and all that stuff and building up that soil. And by building up that soil, you're going to get better plants, you're going to get healthier plants, and you're going to get bigger produce and more produce. But in reality, when crap hits the fan, you can put a seed in dirt and it'll grow it. It may not give you as much as it will in a beautifully fertilized bed, but it's going to give you something. And if you have that whole seed packet of seeds, you can put all those seeds out, and you're going to have produce. As long as you remember to water it, you're going to have produce. And keep pests away from it, like bunnies. You're going to have produce. So it's a good insurance policy. So if you're not already thinking about it, just think about it. Start figuring out what is your food source and how can you bring that food source close to home. I talked about it many times, and I will forever get on that soapbox that our food industry is irreparably broken. I don't think I said that right. Our food industry is irreparably broken. There needs to be a massive overhaul to our food system. The fact that so many chemicals, I'm getting soapbox a little bit. The fact that so many chemicals are allowed in and on our food, there's no need for it. So we need to fix our food system regardless. But as we move further into 2023 and the next couple of years, I think we're really going to see that need for the home gardener, the home farmer, really kind of taking some of these things back into our own hands, like our grandparents did. It only takes one generation for something to be forgotten. And we are already to the point where people look at me as I'm harvesting calendula and lavender for my tinctures and all that stuff, and they look at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, no, but this is what our grandparents did. This is what our great-grandparents did. All of these things are already getting forgotten, and they're already kind of being looked at like you're weird when you do this stuff. We need to bring all this stuff back. So especially as the prices of everything rise, here's a great way to save. Well, no, here's a great way to save money. Technically, growing your own vegetables, growing your own produce is a great way to save money. Technically. I have a lot of stuff in that garden that is not for the vegetables. It's for my pure entertainment. So that does not save me that much money. But if you needed to, technically, growing produce is a great way to save money. Things like beans. There's a ton of different beans you can buy, and you can, there's a ton of different beans that you can grow just from the dried beans at the grocery store. Your black beans, your kidney beans, your navy beans, your country beans, your chickpeas. Start growing those. And that's a bean that they're so easy to grow. They grow so much of. That's a great, bountiful, hardy thing that you could put back. That is a great, hardy plant to put back. So, just to reiterate, if you're not already thinking about it, start thinking about it. It's not going to hurt you to think about how to make yourself more sustainable and kind of bulletproof yourself against whatever goes on in this world. I think we can all agree that the world's going a little crazy across many different factions, and the fact that this year we talked about alien spy balloons shows me the world is going crazy. So I think that this is the perfect time to just start double checking our stores, our pantries, making sure that you have what your family needs in the case of an emergency, in case of a natural disaster, or just in case things get so expensive that we can't afford it. If we look back at history, there has been fluctuations in history since the beginning of time. From when times were really good and things didn't cost a lot and supply was high, to reverse, where things cost everything and supply was low. That fluctuation has happened forever. And you have to just ride it out. We're going to go back, the world is going to change, we're going to go back to happy, simpler times again, but we kind of need to ride out this fluctuation. And I don't know how expensive things are going to get. For $8 a pound of hamburger, I don't think I'm going to be eating that much hamburger this summer. So, if you're getting to that point where you're kind of starting to question, can you afford to feed your family? Can you afford to keep moving forward? This is a great way to kind of cut those costs and take charge, take control, and know that you're not reliant on the grocery stores. Learn how to cook from scratch. If you can't do anything else, start challenging yourself to cook from scratch. Instead of picking up those convenience items and going out to eat all the time, buy yourself some flour, learn how to make a yeast bread. Learn how to cook meat from scratch. Learn how to make soups and stocks, and learn how to break down a chicken, just so you have that skill. Make friends with other farmers and other gardeners near you. Make that relationship so that you can go to them and you can say, hey, the store doesn't have any eggs. Can I buy eggs from you? I've been buying eggs from a local farmer through my mom. My mom has a friend. I made friends with my mom's friend. But I've been buying my eggs through her. And so I've been only paying $3 a dozen of eggs this whole time. So like I haven't had to really pay that $5 that the grocery stores were charging. And then when the grocery stores were out, I still had a private hookup. So make these friends, make these commitments, and kind of build that community. This is the perfect time to start taking these chances and start taking these steps to make yourself more sustainable, to build yourself a community, and make sure that you can ride out the future. Whatever the future may be, good, bad, ugly, great, whatever it's going to be, make sure that you're prepared to ride it out. So stay tuned. Part 2 is going to be talking about the homegrown medicines that I have working on the homestead and all the different things that, again, I have such a small section of land, quarter of an acre, not big at all, but I'm able to have so much on this homestead so that this is working for me. I don't just have grass growing in the yard that I can't do anything with. I have so many things in this property that are working for me, that are bettering me, and are kind of giving me that control and that sustainability that I want. and I don't have to rely on the grocery store. My reliance on the grocery store has gone way down since COVID, since I've really been challenging myself to learn new skills, to learn how to do these things, and to kind of just make myself more reliant on myself and more independent on myself, you know, more independent and just kind of relying on myself more. So part 2 will be out after this. Thank you guys for joining me. Again, this is not coming from a fear place. This is just coming as I think now is the perfect time. We have time. We have the beginning of summer, so you have the time to learn how to do some of these skills. Start challenging yourself to figure out what you can do to make yourself more self-sustainable, to make yourself more independent, and to make it so you can rely more on yourself and not have to rely on others and the grocery stores as much. What can you do today that can make you more self-sufficient? Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.